Kanye versus JPEG way closer than most people would probably say. Yeah. I don't really feel that strongly here, to be honest. Is Nathan's emotional abuse of Remy, the episode 6 kid, just like acceptable to everyone? I said this to Scott at dinner and was just being a dismissive asshole about it to try to be funny, but Scott didn't think it was funny.
No, the whole, at least I'm taking it as genuine, where Nathan did not intend for that to happen, and this like was a mistake that he made during the course of creating the rehearsal. But and then given that within the rehearsal, the whole idea, like the whole like thing that prompts episode 6 to happen is Nathan being like, oh my God, how did I let this happen? What is wrong with me? Yeah. And that is what prompts his development. I feel like the show very much does not frame it in a positive light.
No, Nathan's clearly traumatized by what happens, and the core conflict is the validity of his feelings versus the pain founded inherent within them.
Yeah, so no, I would not say that we just take this as acceptable. I feel the rehearsal is very critical of it.
Yeah, but I think that if you watch the rehearsal and your takeaway is, yeah, this is good, like, you should watch it again.
Yeah.
Drake, Eminem, Ed Sheeran, and Imagine Dragons have had the worst influence on music. Nah, not really. I like to talk about, especially music, in terms of art history and influence, as being progenitors or creators of ideas, like musical, stylistic, thematic, cultural ideas. And those who are more so writing the coattails of that and being the maybe capstones or mainstream sense of fruition of that. And I think that these artists are more so on that vein. Like, I think that Drake is largely just a more mainstream, palatable, poppy version of ideas that Kanye created. Eminem is just, we're not Eminem fans, but, you know, he exists. Ed Sheeran, Imagine, like, they're just bad, but they didn't, like, ruin music or anything. Like, what significant artists would you point to that are Ed Sheeran or Imagine Dragons influenced clones? You know, that like are really soaking up the spotlight in a negative way and a detriment to the totality of mainstream music. I wouldn't really point to anybody as being these things. So I don't think that they're bad. Like, if you just want to say they're bad and the influence is that too many people listen to them instead of appreciating good music, sure, but most people are going to appreciate palatable, accessible, mainstream garbage versus critical, complex art or whatever the hell. Anyways.
I like some of their songs.
I like some of their songs too.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to call them garbage just for the sake of the discussion.
That's fair.
Why are you undermining me?
Fair enough.
Watch La La Land. Still think Babylon is Chazelle's best. Where is he on your list? I haven't seen Babylon, so I can't really answer this. I'm sure it's good, though. I'm excited to watch it. Is Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven the GOATs, considering their very long longevity and talent? In terms of musicality, style, influence on music as an art form, sure. We're just much more oriented towards thematic narratives and what art has to say in a more tangible, grounded way, which is very difficult to accomplish with instrumental music in general, let alone being so widely divorced from it in terms of era. Kendrick is the best musician ever, not Mozart. But if you said Mozart was the best musician ever, I'd more so say we have different ways of looking at things than you're stupid and wrong, because I'm not a moron. Let's see. What about the College Dropout do you not like? I think it's easily Kanye's best.
I don't dislike the College Dropout.
I don't dislike the College Dropout
I
guess dislike in terms of its, I feel like its general consensus status is top 20 rap album, which I think is very overstated.
The only thing I dislike about it is the skits.
The skits are annoying.
Yeah.
The charm of the album, the personalness of the album, it feels more genuine than a lot of Kanye.
Yeah.
It feels more raw.
A bit.
I like the rapping on it a lot more than a lot of Kanye. But I think that the production, the style of Kanye, doesn't really show itself in its full force in early Kanye work in general. I think that his later albums are significantly better produced, which I think is the core selling point and the reason why people like Kanye to the extent that they do. New Kanye is significantly better than old Kanye in my estimation. I would take Dark Fantasy, Yeezus, Pablo, and Kids See Ghosts over any Kanye, over any Kanye album from the 2000s. Not only is their sound significantly better in terms of production styles, but they have a lot more to say. If I'm going to criticize a College Dropout, it's that it is extremely disoriented, does not follow any sort of coherent thematic narrative, or really have that much to say in general. It attempts to say things in different directions at different points, but none of that is really consolidated and building on each other to any sort of sense that's going to leave any sort of lasting impact on me at all. I really like Spaceship, but I really like Spaceship as a disjointed, self-isolated 3 or 4 minute track that comments on what it has to say, but it's not like the expanse of the overall work is proliferating that much. You know, like my favorite songs from the album are Spaceship, We Don't Care, and Last Call. Oh, It All Falls Down. But to say that those are all connected, building on each other, and elevating each other to a point where it's competing with something like a Kendrick, where it's competing with Section 80, like, let's be blunt, Section 80 is significantly better than a College Dropout in terms of anything besides how old heads who are looking at music based on ranker.com and not really thinking things through are perceiving it. And, yeah. Bird's going to comment on that because Bird thinks that the College Dropout is like a 9.5.
It's terrible.
And he has more intellectualized art opinions than me.
I see.
But
well, he does, obviously.
Yeah, we'll see. Thoughts on Have a Nice Life's Deathconsciousness? I feel bad because this guy like seems like an interesting dude from like the questions I've seen him ask. Mm-hmm. And every time he asks something, I just have a negative reaction. I don't like this album. I do not care for art that wallows in its own pity and misery, which I very much feel that this album does, both thematically in its lyrical content and stylistically. The idea of Earthmover being one of the greatest conceptions in music's history feels very uncomfortable to me. The album's just through and through sadness. I don't really see much way around that. I think if you wanted to try to really do some mental gymnastics and interpret some sort of positivity to it, I guess you could, but I also don't see the profound beauty in the musicality that other people seem to. I've been a negative proponent of this album for as long as I can remember. It's not for me. There was a point in time on Instagram where the zeitgeist was a lot of people had this as the best album ever made, and there was a camp of us who were saying it is the worst album ever made and contradictory to everything that makes music as an art form beautiful. And I wasn't fully on board with that, but I leaned much more so towards that side. I am not a Deathconsciousness fan at all. What are your current thoughts on The Human Condition and Kaji? You should watch our Letterboxd tier list video where I talked about this more extensively, but I am high on it relative to what I have been for the last year or so if you're a close follower of mine. You watched the new Buried yet? No, we've been in Bermuda and I can't stream HBO, so I'm excited to watch it, but I haven't seen it yet. Brothers Karamazov versus Ulysses as a comparison. What's your comparison to these?
I personally prefer Ulysses. I think while Ulysses technically has 2 main characters, I think that given the Brothers Karamazov having 3 separate main characters, I think we're getting a bit too much split. Ulysses, while complex, I feel like in its intricacy, is able to develop Leopold in this very interesting way that does focus also on his dynamics and like just the sheer creativity and like the style actually lending to insight into Leopold's mind, like especially as he's just like walking through the city and like you see him like thinking, and like you really get that stream of conscious style that like really gives insight into who he is.
Which is a lot of like what Joyce is famous for.
Is fantastic. Versus the Brothers Karamazov, where I feel it's a bit more surface level. I'm not saying it's surface level, but when compared to Ulysses, I'd say it's a bit surface level. We're going through some basic conflicts, and we're not really delving into it to the level of detail to make up for the lack of emotion in the character relationships.
So what I really like is that you've read neither. You haven't read either of these,
no, I haven't.
but you have read like 60% of Karamazov, and you gave a way less detailed description of that than Ulysses, which you've read none of. That's hilarious.
That is actually my criticism of Karamazov, given how far I am into it.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're just so divergent in terms of the way that they tackle art in general.
Mm-hmm. You think I hit it right on the money, though.
Your comparison's actually pretty competent, to be honest, which is really funny because you haven't fucking read them. I don't think that Karamazov is surface level or bad, of course. It's in my top 20 things in general.
I mean, I think it's like a 7. I'm not done with it, so.
That's good for you.
No,
that's very good. That's very good for you.
No, it's good.
How many things would you say are above a 7, 60% through?
Not very many.
Yeah, okay. So that's
it's good.
That's just not going to be a satisfactory answer for this guy at all, but you know.
Well, he just has to trust me, even though I haven't read it. Yeah.
Could an AI-generated album be a 10? This is the best question you've ever received.
No, it isn't. No offense, but it's an interesting question.
It might be the best question I've ever received.
What?
No, the best thing that this guy specifically did was turn me on to using that clip of Family Guy discussing The Godfather as it insists upon itself in reference to the TV show Dark.
That's fair.
That's the best thing this guy has ever done, for sure.
It insists upon itself.
It insists upon itself. It's a great
Can an
criticism.
AI-generated album be a 10? In the way that, like, there's a classic thought experiment that, like, a monkey at a typewriter could write Hamlet just eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like...
That's the tough thing is if you were to have AI generate, it has to be an album, it has to generate albums, they could pump out millions of albums per hour. Like, eventually one of them would just based on like probability and odds, one of them would probably happen to be a 10. Would it likely be missing a sense of, I don't know, a human touch that would take away from it? Maybe, but the AI would also be pulling on millions and millions of examples to try to replicate that.
That's fair. I mean, I guess I'm kind of referencing this idea, like, if you had an infinite string of characters, right?
Yeah.
If you had the infinite string of characters, just letters of the alphabet, just put in random orders forever and ever and ever.
And it's better than that too, because it's going to put it together in a somewhat coherent way. It's not going to be just randomly. But
eventually, like that should contain like the entire works of Shakespeare, everything that we've ever written. So like
there's a question that's posed in Umineko where it's a character is tortured by they have to type, basically like the monkey example, they have to type Hamlet. It is Hamlet too.
I thought that was just a metaphor for past stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, but anyway.
They have to type Hamlet just randomly. There's no label to the keys, and the keys change after every attempt. Or else they're just trapped in this void where all they can do is try to type Hamlet.
Yeah.
Eventually you will.
Yeah.
You know, like given infinite probability, which AI is afforded in the nature of it, eventually it will happen. Will anybody listen to all of those attempts to try to figure that out? Probably not.
Yeah.
But will it eventually happen? Probably.
Yeah, but in terms of
the practical answer,
no. You kind of need a personal touch to be inspired enough to actually write something that meaningful.
Yeah, because most likely they would be writing very derivative, reductive things.
Yeah.
But the actual answer is yes.
Yeah.
But it's only if you really think through it in terms of how numbers work.
Yeah. Statistically, yes. Like practically, no.
Yes. Statistically. So statistically, So if you're unfamiliar with this idea, if you were to slap your hand on a table, there is a non-zero chance that your hand just goes through that table.
Yeah.
I'm not lying. You can look this up. There is a chance that the molecules that make up your hand, given that atoms are largely empty space, can they can interlock with all of the empty space of the table, and your hand just goes through it. That is a non-zero chance. Obviously, practically, we would consider that impossible. But
given infinite tries.
It is a necessity.
Yeah.
Because given a random chance at random characters writing an album and random notes, eventually a 10 will be created, yes. Okay. What's an artwork you think has an excellent concept or idea, but utterly fails in execution? There's a great, perfect answer for this. Why don't you have the same one as me?
I don't.
Akiru.
Oh, that's so valid.
Yeah. The letterbox description of Akiru makes me think this movie will probably be a 10. The movie's a 1.
That's fair. My answer was going to be Fate Hollander Actia. I knew you didn't have the same take because you didn't do it. But it's absolute. But my answer is that you kind of get sort of like the embodiment of all evil, like kind of grappling with humanity in general and like trying to find some sort of meaning. And then he has a relationship, not like necessarily romantic, just he has a like friendship with this woman who has had like a near-death experience and is struggling with like her place in society, and weird story, very interesting. The absolute worst thing I have ever read in my entire life. They completely ruin any amount of potential by like giving me something that is offensively bad and honestly is an assault on my senses. I hate that thing. Continue.
I agree.
Yeah.
How good would Umineko be without the manga? It would be a 10, but not the best thing ever, and not the best 10.
No, my take kind of before I like fully
reconcile the differences between the manga and the anime, where they approach the topic
anime, the VN
differently, and the VN, yes.
Yeah. Back when I like before I fully absorbed the manga.
Good job.
It was a 10, but my worst 10. With the manga, it is the greatest piece of fiction ever written by a lot. Landslide, no contest.
She Blew on My Dick Like a Cello by Lil Yachty.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I also blow on my cello.
I didn't even think about that. like a cello, you strum it. When Outer Wilds,
no,
I played the first 20 minutes of it. It was the worst experience I've ever had with a video game. I trust people in general more than I trust my initial reaction to things, so I will return to it. But I was a bit discouraged by hating my time with the first 20 minutes of it. Why has Notes from Underground fallen off for you? Wasn't falling off for you. You have the opinion on it that you had initially.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Well, it's not like fantastic. It's like 5 or 6, but it's the funniest thing I've ever read. It is hysterical. I explained my take earlier. Just think about it as a Seinfeld episode. It's great.
So I think that often when you are delving into a new art form, you are prone towards overrating works that you initially experience. If you're looking at it in the question of what are your top X of all time or anything like that. And I think that in going through Dostoevsky, finishing Crime and Punishment, I think that I almost assumed there was more to Notes of the Underground than there actually was. And I was talking to other people that I respected the intelligence of quite a bit who were agreeing with me on that idea. So I think that I was overrating Notes of the Underground on that basis. Although I do think it's quite good. I would also give it like a 6. But we don't really do numerical ratings for things in general because we get really, really harsh really quickly, and we do think things at 6s are good. Most ratings on the internet are realistically between 7 and 10, and they give everything that's kind of okay a 9, and we just don't really do that. A 9 is something that had a legitimate, tangible effect on us as people. A 6 is something that's good. A 10 is something that we think about every other hour. All right. Man, I've been trying to put you on Coin Locker Kid for years. You got to give his discog a shot. So I've listened to... God damn it,
Super
what's
Flat.
the... How do you know and not me if you listen to the album? Yeah, I listened to Super Flat. I had a coherent perspective on it at one point. I listened to an hour-long video analysis of it and then listened to the album a couple more times, formed my perspective on it. Thought the album was really good. I am not really sure how I feel about it nowadays with 2 years removed, but I definitely want to get into his discography. It seems like he has a lot to say as an artist. I really disagree with him criticizing Virginia Woolf, though, because I really like Virginia Woolf. And Salmon of Doubt is on the docket. General thoughts on Damn 6 years later and after Mr. Morale's release.
Damn is super interesting. In terms of me, I definitely underrated it significantly upon release. I
told you so, man.
I didn't
give you any substantive argument as to why, but I told you so.
I didn't really get it. I think that the main conflict between predetermination and like being able to decide your own fate and actually have will over your future is very interesting. And I think that I oversimplified it at first upon listening to the album and taking it as a very like literal biblical debate rather than using these biblical ideas as like a metaphor for how do you find yourself within a society that is with the cards stacked against you. And on the one hand, you are a person and you can do things and you do have agency, but on the other hand, a lot of things feel really predetermined and a lot of things are. And as I said, the odds are stacked against you. And how do you reconcile your view of your own journey in life? How do you view your actions? How do you view everything with balancing the place you've been put into versus what you've done with your own agency? And I think that it tackles that. I think that it leads into morale that tackles it a bit better and comes to more meaningful conclusions. But I still think Damn on its own does tackle that fantastically.
The dealer dealt you a fucking 12 and they're showing a face card, but like you should still hit and get a 9.
Yeah.
It's not an applicable metaphor. But, you know. Jimi Hendrix and the Velvet Underground are ridiculously clear of other 60s rock. I mean, like Bob Dylan is technically rock, and I like him.
So it was in the
as
Court
much,
of the
if not
Crimson
more.
King.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I also don't.
Yeah,
I'm not a huge Jimi Hendrix fan.
I would take Highway 61, Blonde on Blonde, and In the Court of the Crimson King over any albums by Velvet Underground or Jimi Hendrix. Otherwise, I agree with you. How the fuck do you get into Fate and Monogatari? Where do I start? I'm gonna rifle through this fast as hell? As fast as you can. Do it.
For Monogatari, what you're going to do is you're going to either look up Watch Guide and then follow it, or you're going to look up Monogatari series novels and then follow that order as opposed to the release order of the television series. Though the television series is very good, just watch it in the order of the novels because it's directly adapting them, but just did it out of order.
Bake, Kizu, second season.
Okay.
Owari season 2.
Whoa.
Did I miss anything?
Yes, you did. Bake, Kizu, Nisei, Neko Black. Then you're going to do second season for the first 2 arcs, which is Neko White and Kabuki. Then you're going to do Hana, and then you're going to go back and finish second season going through Otori, Oni, then Koi, and then you're going to move on to Suki. Then you're going to go to Koyomi. Then you're going to go to Owari.
But if you just Google Watch Order and look at the first results, it'll tell you this.
And then for Fate, what you're going to do is you should just play the Fate Stay Night visual novel and then never touch the series again because Hollow Ataraxia is the worst thing ever. If you're not going to do that, then the adaptations of the visual novel, kind of a mess. Basically, there are 3 routes of the visual novel at the same period of time. Just different events happen. They do build on each other. Basically, the first route of the visual novel introduces everything. The second route really starts everything, like, thematically, and then the route finishes everything. The anime adaptations have things for each route. The first route, one in the VN, is bad, and also the adaptation is a bad adaptation of it. Skip it. Then go to Unlimited Blade Works. the TV anime, not the movie, which is the second root of the visual novel. This is the thing that actually like starts stories. Then do the Heaven's Feel movie trilogy, which is the third root of the visual
Can I
novel.
bite your arm?
No.
Okay.
I'm done.
Oh, you're done. I was trying to remind you. Fate Zero is scarily clear of Stay Night.
No.
Heaven's Feel is close, though.
No, Zero is bad. Zero's bad.
It's funny because Heaven's Feel is part of Stay Night.
Yeah, no, I think the point is like
that like if it was just Heaven's Feel and they're like valuing like consistency or something.
Yeah, but
I mean,
no.
Stay Night is like Blade Works is like building up to Heaven's Feel. That's the point of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Watch my Shiro video. I think I called it like.
Oh yeah.
Shiro.
I mean, link that in here. Yeah.
If you've seen Fate Stay Night, like go watch that. Mm-hmm. Zero is bad. The problem is that Kuritsugu like comes to some sort of conclusion randomly and without reason. Anyway, moving on.
What is some art that is still really good if you take away the climax? The climax, it depends on what they mean by climax, because it can be like narrative climax. Like we could say the base game Fata, like the climax theoretically is door 8. It just like if you take away door 8, Fata is exactly as good as it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, Umineko would still be great without the climax.
Yeah, that's fair. Like
without the end of of door 8, it would still be great even if you took away episode 8 in general.
Umineko, yeah.
It would still be great.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like nearly as good, but like it would still be great. Let's see. The Neapolitan novels would be great without the climax.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Nana.
Nana, yeah. Berserk.
Yep.
Would be great without the climax. The climax doesn't even exist yet.
Yep.
Real, the climax doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vagabond.
Valid, yes, good point.
Yeah.
Monogatari. Most good things, I feel like.
Are we saying the climax is Ogi Dark, or are we saying the climax is
Zoku.
like Zoku?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be good without it for sure.
Yeah. In Search of Lost Time would be great without the climax.
That's fair.
BoJack would be great without the climax. Futuro's great, in my opinion.
That's fair. That's fair.
Fuck
Better
you,
than
man.
Madman.
Yeah. Opinions on Rango. I'm just gonna pretend that you asked Rambo and you mean the Bryson Tiller song. It's really sick. Music is just not hitting the same anymore. :/face. It's fair. I've been more so listening to music for enjoyment nowadays. I think that music is afforded a lot of luxury that other mediums don't have in terms of being a deeply meaningful work of art. Unfortunately, I think that most music isn't really trying to do that. And in my efforts towards trying to piece it together and understand it in its totality and its nuance, a lot of the time I end up with wasted effort that I don't really find as much in other mediums, despite them being much longer. But I also think that music, in terms of short-term burst enjoyment, is the best, and I tend to just allocate my resources to its best uses. So I've mostly been listening to music for enjoyment nowadays outside of the stuff that I already know I really love. There are some projects in music that I'm working on in terms of artistry, but I think that music is the medium that is best suited towards enjoyment over... Is that audible?
I hope so.
I hope so too. Over artistic merit or depth. How about you? Music not hitting the same anymore? We usually listen to Taylor Swift and nothing else nowadays.
Yeah,
it's hitting great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Music's incredible. Best medium for sure.
Stance on Jesus Christ, the righteous one.
He's a long-haired Jewish socialist. It's pretty cool.
What are your thoughts on Nier Replicant and Automata? I haven't played Nier Replicant. I don't know if having played it would advance my opinions on Nier Automata. Pleading ignorance there. Nier Automata is really good, but was oversold to me. I expected it to absolutely blow me away and transcend video games as a medium, especially in terms of narratives. The story of Bloodborne is better than the story of Nier Automata, for sure. It's generally overrated. I really like Nier. It's good. If I make a top 10 narrative games list, it'll probably be in there. But to be fully transparent, and I'm happy to do this with people who watch this video for this long, when I got to the climactic point of Nier, the whole credits thing and the sort of gimmick at the end, I think that I was misunderstanding some stuff, but I audibly said out loud that was really dumb. And I thought there was going to be a whole nother section after that. So, yeah. Afterwards, I did some research, came to appreciate it a little bit more. I think more highly of Nier than I did when I first finished it, but in general, me compared to everybody else who's played it, I almost always find it overrated.
I tried playing it. I got like partway through Route A, found it boring, and dropped it. The music good though.
Fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah.
One of my favorite soundtracks for sure. Sonic Youth or Nirvana. So I really only put significant thought and time into Goo and Daydream Nation. So I'm not sure I'm really suited to answer this, especially given my seeing a lot of people's Sonic Youth rankings and them being like pretty all over the place. Nirvana, like I would take Nevermind and In Utero over the two Sonic Youth albums I'm very familiar with, but not by a ton, and Sonic Youth has a whole ton more music. So realistically, the answer is probably Sonic Youth, but I couldn't validate that based on my own tangible, honest feelings of what I've done.
I'm a normie, so just because of the titles, there's Teenage Riot, and there's Smells Like Teen Spirit. Teenage Riot's way better. So that's my take.
But the story of Smells Like Teen Spirit is so fun. Do you not know it?
Oh, like why it's called that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell it?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard this, which most people I have, Kurt Cobain just named the damn song after his girlfriend saying he smells like Teen Spirit because that's the deodorant she wears.
Hell yeah.
And then it became the most popular song of the 90s, which is hilarious. Correlation between Silent Hill, the song by Kendrick, and the video game. This guy has asked me this like 70 times, and I don't answer it because I have nothing interesting to say. I don't know. I haven't really thought this through. I hate Silent Hill 2. I think it's the most overrated video game of all time. But I didn't really think through it in terms of how it relates to the Kendrick song. Yeah, I don't know. Rank Deftones, Korn, and Slipknot. I would go... Kill it, do it.
Slipknot, Korn, Deftones.
No, that's the worst order of you usually you're good at ranking things you haven't done.
I hate Deftones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've actually listened to some Deftones. I don't like them.
Oh, man.
Slipknot has Before I Forget, which is on Guitar Hero 3, so it's
the best song
automatically,
of all
yeah.
time, yep.
And then Korn
Play Guitar Hero 3 if you haven't.
exists, I guess. So
Guitar Hero 3, thematically, is definitely superior to God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would go Deftones, Slipknot, Korn. But, you know, I like all those bands. I saw Korn live, and they were good.
Interesting.
Where the hell are you on that boat? We're in the deck of our room. We're on a cruise.
That's the Atlantic Ocean.
That's the Atlantic Ocean.
That's
We were
water.
told there were whales in the middle of this video. We interrupted it, and there were no fucking whales. I just want to see whales, man.
No
like,
whales.
If I could just see a blue whale, I'd be amped. Battler or Guts? You're gonna say Battler, aren't you?
I am.
I have them close to each other.
So do I.
So.
They're like, that is
Yeah.
just tough.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
a
take Battler.
good that's a good comparison.
Yeah.
I'm okay with either. The thing is, like, I feel more affection of Battler. I just don't know if that's just because he's in Umineko.
I don't think it is, because I don't feel like a ton. Like, I feel like I don't feel an unfitting amount of affection for like Ava or Maria or anything. I think I like those characters.
Understood. Reasonable. That's a good point. Opinions on Good Place better than Breaking Bad. You've seen both these shows.
I have seen
What's
both
your
these
opinion?
shows.
You were maybe 12 when you watched Breaking Bad. What's your opinion?
I was about 12 or 13 when I saw Breaking Bad. I'm gonna take Breaking Bad.
Me too.
Yeah, The Good Place is good. I find its ending a little annoying.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a little annoying. I agree. I kind of wish that they just committed and just didn't go through the gateway.
Yep. I agree.
After Sun or the Banshees of... Like, if they were to have had the last episode be like 3 or 4 episodes and like really go through like the reason why, like if that was like the initial conflict and then they detailed why they aren't going to go through the gateway, it could have been unreasonably good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think they made the wrong choice.
The wrong choice.
Yeah.
After Sun or the Banshees of Inisherin, I would take Banshees, even though I haven't seen it. We for real got to see the updated best albums of all time and best artists in all media of all time. I haven't done a best artist all media all time ever. Have you?
No,
but yours would just be your art of all time. Just
yeah. So my take, Mark has a much more interesting take in terms of. Well, I mean, obviously, I think my take's super interesting because it's mine. Yeah. But in terms of like presenting it to you guys, Mark has a much more interesting take on the best artist of all time because to me, I would look at best artists how I look at best guitarists. And to me, the best guitarist is the most technically proficient guitarist. It's the guitarist who played the best guitar piece, like who has the most impressive solo is the best guitarist. They reached the height of guitar playing, and I would judge them based on that. I don't really judge.
Can I bite your arm?
No.
Continue.
So the best artist to me is the one who made the best art, and I would rank them in that order. So my best artist list is really boring if you've seen my best art list because it's the same list. Your list is more interesting and coming out soon.
Coming out soon this month. We're kicking it off. We're gonna get home from this cruise and then start doing some editing.
Wow.
Did you ever have any internships in college? This is kind of a fun one because this
one hurts me.
Oh, you didn't have one in you didn't have one in college. Scott had one in high school because my first internship, which was with this private holding company, I convinced my boss to hire Scott for the last couple of months of the summer.
Yeah, I was 16.
Which gave him a huge leg up going into internships. But then he was the worst point of when COVID can interrupt your college career in terms of this type of shit.
It's just...
Yeah.
I won't get into the specifics. There were other things that were bad for me, but I won't get too...
Scott's had a rough time.
Yeah. But...
I also interned at... military industrial complex company.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. All right. Word. Any favorite extreme metal bands or albums? Metal's weird because they have so many just genre breakdown classifications. I have no idea what counts as extreme metal.
Definitely not Metallica, and that's like 99% of the metal I listen to.
My favorite metal bands are Tool and Death. I like them a lot more than other metal bands, but I don't think either of them classify as extreme metal, and to be honest, I don't know what does.
It's valid.
A Song of Ice and Fire is the best thing ever. Your anti-Game of Thrones bias is holding you back.
All right, so okay, so I have seen Game of Thrones, but the problem is that I understand that I'm sure the looks are way better. I'm sure they are. The problem is it's not always the case. For the most part, every story could be good in terms of its structure, but some structures lend themselves to being better stories. And the problem with The Song of Ice and Fire, at least as it exists now, is it cuts out at the end of season 5. And the end of season 5 isn't a great ending for something. The only way I could see A Song of Ice and Fire truly being the greatest thing ever as it stands now is if Jaime Lannister just did Musashi Miyamoto better, and I just kind of doubt it.
Yeah, that's the only avenue it has towards being the best thing ever. Yeah. I think that a lot of people just think it's really inspired in its world building and creativity, and they just like it a lot. But in terms of actually having something to say that has a genuine, understandable, tangible, life-changing effect on people, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
If the ending is divergently, significantly different than the ending that we got, maybe, anything's possible, but I'm more interested in pretty much every other acclaimed long-running fantasy work over A Song of Ice and Fire because the structure of it and the bullet point list of what happens to each character list is just not conducive of having a really good story. It just isn't.
She stabbed global warming.
Yeah, I don't know. It's everything about the end of Game of Thrones is super disappointing, and I don't know, maybe there are vast differences in A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's just not even really the same story. But from what I understand, it's not really the case, other than some notable exceptions I've heard. Stannis is a much more significant
Stannis
character.
is more of a character. I'm not as big of a Game of Thrones fan as I used to be. There's a region. Is it like Davros or something?
Davros?
What is it?
Davos is a character.
It's south. It's like in South Westeros.
Term like Marine?
No. Whatever.
I don't know.
This is gonna be boring, so I'm not gonna say.
Yeah.
But there's a region that apparently is far more developed, and there is a lot going on. Where's Oberyn from?
I thought he was from Marine.
No.
No. The like sea snakes or whatever. What the hell is that place called?
I don't care. Continue.
Dorne? Is it
Yeah, Dorne.
Yeah.
There, I heard everything Dorne related is so much better.
Sure, but like to have like a niche side part of a story elevated to the greatest piece of art of all time is
No, it's fair.
it's not gonna freaking happen.
No.
I doubt it. If you love it that much, like I'm happy for you. Are Fata short stories worth playing? Which ones are your favorite?
I
Yes.
haven't done all of them, but the Revenant's Dream is absolutely worth playing. It is essential, actually. You have to play the Revenant's Dream after you play Fragments.
It's just fragments if it wasn't shit.
Yeah, but it's like not just not shit. It is like if you said it's the greatest thing you've ever read, that's completely fair and reasonable.
Totally reasonable. Way more reasonable than Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't read it.
Other than that, my favorite is Lost 1. I haven't read them all, so there might be better ones, but Lost 1 concludes the story of Door 3 very impressively. I was shocked by it. I was very impressed. I was happy that I read it. It develops Jacopo and the maid as an interesting dynamic, which like is completely untapped potential in the main story, and you wouldn't even think of that being a thing. But when you like think about, if you haven't played Lost 1 and you're like thinking about it for like a second, you can kind of see how that makes sense, especially at the point in time that Door 3 happens. Very good. I would recommend that. Other than that, I've only read the fun ones. Like Boy Meets Girl is cool. I like Silent Night, Holy Night actually a lot. Have you read that one?
I haven't.
Silent Night, Holy Night is Michelle and Morgana celebrating Christmas together.
It's adorable.
It is
I
adorable.
100% want to watch that or read that.
But like, there's an interesting motif in it where like, I think Michelle's like trying to like put like a hat or something on her, and it's like about like it's very metaphorical, but he's like kind of trying to express that even if he can't like see her, that like in some way he can, and
Sure.
that like they kind of like bridge the gap through communication,
Reasonable.
and like that's very good and interesting.
Yeah. Rank the songs of the JoJo stands, please.
Rank the songs of the JoJo.
I feel like Epitaph is
yeah,
my best
can
one.
I count Epitaph? Because I'd take Epitaph.
Yeah, because King Crimson, his move or whatever,
Yeah,
is
Epitaph.
Epitaph. So like that is the song. If
Yeah.
we're gonna give him one,
So go.
probably the best one.
Yep.
Crazy Diamond is a good song. Shining Crazy Diamond.
Yep.
Their songs.
This
A
is
lot
just
of them are
any
just
stands.
artists, aren't they?
Yeah, this is just
Hey Ya
Stand.
is a stand. Hey Ya is a stand. In Still Will Run, the black dude whose stand is just being lucky.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I think his name is Hey Ya.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Hey Ya's a fantastic song.
What else is there? Yeah, we'll say those
Yeah.
are the top three and move
Yeah.
on. What makes Fei Fong Wong from Xenogears so good?
His hair.
Yeah, his hair, his fighting style is really sick.
Yeah.
No, so his relationship with himself, especially, but his relationship with Ellie is, fuck, her name's goddamn Ellie, right? I'm
It
not
is.
like getting
Yes,
mistaken
her
with
name's
Ellie from Last of Us
No, her
on
name-
video
her
game
name's
mode.
Ellie.
Yeah,
Her name's Ellie.
Her name's Ellie. Okay, yeah. Is really well handled. The idea of the one-winged angel is contained very well within the story of Xenogears. That's my point to people who have played it. In general, it's a story that focuses on a lot of explicit character development paired with philosophical reference that is actually like well applied in a way that usually philosophical reference isn't. And in doing research on the game and what it's trying to say, you actually find rewarding content. And then the climax of it is just really great. Within its litany of phenomenal villains, it probably has the best villain cast if we're going by like who's the third or fourth best villain in a story. I've seen in anything, and they all add greatly to the story. The mystery component of it is really well handled. It keeps you both invested in the beginning of the story, but pays off thematically within the mid to late sections of the story. And then the end of it, in terms of fleshing out the resolutions, the reconciliations of Fei's character arc, the reconciliation of Fei and Ellie's dynamic, is really well handled. What are you laughing at? Who is the best artist at portraying poverty? Dostoevsky. I think he portrays the ramifications of poverty and what it leads to extremely well.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like the psychological detailing of Raskolnikov in particular, extremely well. Those Underground does a good job of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess you can take the entirety of Demons to be a meditation on poverty in terms of its political ramifications. I'm not sure to what extent I agree with it politically, but I also am not sure to what extent I feel it is trying to make a coherent political statement. I don't really want to get into that, but Dostoevsky is my answer for that for sure.
Valid.
What is the best thing about Fanta for you? Do you answer this?
I
We
don't.
took a little break between these parts.
I don't think we answered this. The best part about Fata, my favorite part. If we're saying like part of the story, then it's obviously the climax door 7. If we're saying like favorite like aspect of it, I'm going to say like the level of detail and intricacy in the writing at expressing what's going on in the character's heads.
Fair.
Yeah.
What are some of the best movie posters? I really enjoy the Devil Probably's movie poster. That is probably my favorite. I'm not sure what else really comes to mind in terms of Stalker. Stalker has excellent with like the main not IMDb letterboxed poster for Stalker. I think looks great. Do you have any?
Not really.
Okay. Spanish 3 is killing me, and it's only the 3rd fucking year. That sucks, bro.
Yeah.
Stop learning languages. I don't know.
Didn't take Spanish.
Didn't take Spanish.
We took Latin in high school.
Latin. It was sick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on MBTIs?
They're fun. I don't think they have like the most.
Is your opinion on this the same as your opinion on astrology?
In terms of the appeal I get from it, yeah, pretty much.
Sure.
I enjoy them. I don't necessarily think they're like either of them are necessarily the most like scientifically valid thing, but I think that going through them and having discussions about them leads to interesting conversations that can lead to genuinely impactful and meaningful and valuable realizations about yourself and others, because it just like presents a lot of ideas and provides you some sort of framework to either agree with or argue against, and I think that is valuable.
Thick as hell.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Dylan, assume Bob, nowadays? I think that the expanse of what he's trying to intellectually engage with in his lyrics is very compelling and very interesting. My issue with Bob Dylan as me now, a 26-year-old, versus me at the time where I was most into Bob Dylan as a 14 and 15-year-old, is that he doesn't really tailor that or direct that in a like cohesive, coherent way towards a sort of point. He's building outward a lot more than he's building up. But art to me is a competition of who can build the tallest tower more so than it is who can build the widest city. I haven't listened to every Bob Dylan album or every Bob Dylan album as much as I should have. I've predominantly spent my time with his most popular, well-regarded 60s and 70s works. So maybe there's room for growth or improved understanding within his catalog. But that is my current understanding.
Valid.
Do you think there is a limit or ceiling for expression in instrumental music? Yes.
I think it's kind of. I think limits and stuff are kind of like asymptotes, personally. So like the likelihood of. So like to me, like we're just gonna do like normal curves, sort of like going out towards like how likely something is. I'm alienating people who don't know statistics. Just like skip a minute and a half. I don't know. But if we're imagining normal curves where it's like you can go out infinitely, you know, in terms of like quality, but how likely that is going to reduce based on like where you put like the mean or whatever. And I guess to me, like a not completely instrumental work, like something with words, has its mean like 8 standard deviations above the mean of a purely instrumental work. So like, no, I guess not.
Sure.
But it's profoundly unlikely, and everything that I'm going to like really bother engaging with is going to be towards that upper end, and that being lyrical things.
Sure.
That's about my take.
I think that it is entirely possible and reasonable where an instrumental work affects somebody to the level that the best, more lyrical piece of music does. My analogy I like to make, as opposed to Scott's analogy, I compare it to bowling. For me, music with no lyrics is akin to bowling with a blindfold on, being rotated not 360 degrees, an indeterminate amount of degrees in a circle, and just throwing the ball in front of you and hoping you roll a strike. Some people just will roll a strike. The outcome will be the same for them. They'll feel the same thing that they did with the lyrical piece. But it's excessively unlikely compared to the lyrical piece, which I would compare to if you are to have lyrics in general, not being blindfolded, and if you are to have great lyrics, having the girders that block the gutters, where you're almost guaranteed to hit the midsection of the pins and fairly likely hit a strike. That's how I generally look at it. For me, I have not found anything instrumental that I think could even, to be honest, begin to compete with the best things that I find lyrically. But for me, I've explored a wide array of music, the best of instrumental pieces and the best of lyrical pieces. And if you're going to have the best of the best that do one thing and the best of the best that do both and compound upon each other, the likely outcome is that the ones that do two things that compound upon each other very well are going to be better. And that is the reality for me. But if somebody says that a instrumental piece means the most to them, good for you. Let's see. It's Always Sunny, best Western comedy. I mean, I prefer Archer, but I think that's more of a me thing. I think that It's Always Sunny is something that I'd feel more assured in showing a random newcomer and having them laugh at a lot. But I also think that Archer is something where its humor is largely founded on developing the inside jokes and personality of the group and finding that funny. And you can't really ascertain that within a one episode span. To me, those developing a sense of more legitimate friendships and what's more actually funny in real life type of things are better. And I'd way rather watch those than something that has immediate mass appeal. But those are different situations.
That's fair.
How do you feel?
I like Seinfeld.
Fuck you, man. Do you like the Smiths?
Yeah.
Yeah. Queen is Dead is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's like my second or third favorite 80s album.
Hell yeah.
What are some of the best romance movies for somebody new to the genre? You should watch the Before trilogy. It's the best romance
movie
work of film.
Yep.
Idea for YouTube analysis on art that is underappreciated / has little content on it. I think we do kind of try to do that. My main hope was that my love exposure video would take off as the sort of definitive love exposure analysis. Unfortunately, I did it a little early into our YouTube journey where our production value wasn't as good as it could have been. But I'm not sure to what degree that really alienated people. I think it's more just as difficult to get picked up by the YouTube algorithm and blow up. But yeah, that would be ideal, as if we could just get picked up on something that is lesser known, but we could do a coherent, consolidated perspective on and blow up through. Kratos analysis part 2. It's been too long. So I wasn't 100% confident in what I wrote for part 2. I did record the audio for it and then didn't edit the video for it. So I wanted to revisit that. That's why it's been taking so long. But I will finish that up and post it. I'm sorry. Movies you want to watch. What are some movies you want to watch, Scott?
Movies I want to watch are the Before trilogy, as you were saying. I'd like to watch Helter Skelter. I'd like to watch Princess Mononoke. And that's like sort of my immediate docket.
Nice. Yeah. Thoughts on the Count Me Out music video? Crazy that I've never heard you talk about it. I haven't watched it. Have you? Yeah. We're not big music video people.
Yeah.
So, maybe I'll watch it. I mean, if it's significant and adds to the song in any way, I'd be happy to watch it. I mean, I think that the Hard Part 5 music video is phenomenal and adds to the song.
For sure.
Thoughts on the new top 1 on Mal? I thought it was pretty overrated from the first episode. Is there a new top 1 on Mal? I'm not aware of this. Are you?
I believe they're talking about Oshinoko, if I had to guess. The first episode is an hour and a half.
Oh, okay.
It is by the same author as Love is War, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
So, like, I wouldn't be shocked if it's good. I do like Love is War, but to be honest, do I think it's probably overrated? Like, probably, I don't know. Like, everything at the top of Mal is overrated.
It's true. You gonna see Beau is Afraid. I saw it early. No idea if you'd respect it or not. 9 out of 10 for me. So that's the new Joaquin Phoenix movie.
It's pronounced Bayo?
I have no idea.
The word is bow.
Beau is, I don't know.
Okay.
New Joaquin Phoenix movie, produced by Ari Aster, from A24. I would expect it to be great. I'm a huge Joaquin Phoenix fan. I think he is one of, if not the best current active actors. And the premise of the movie sounds really interesting. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really comment on it, but I'd be surprised if I didn't like it. What was your interpretation of Asuka's conclusion in The End of Evangelion? Her resolution is a little confusing. Is it? Confusing?
So, I think that it can be a little confusing. Well, I consider her resolution to be on the beach at the end.
Sure.
So I can see that.
Her decision to reach out and touch Shinji's face.
Yeah, I'd say that is the conclusion. I think if you...
Because she has like a big space between that. 'Cause she has the fight with the mass production Avas, the Mama, I can do the AT fields idea.
Yeah, there is a big space. What it's filled in with is episode 25.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I never really thought through that. I'm gonna need to
Remember when we were talking yesterday? I feel like episode 25 doesn't add as much. It actually directly fits, and you will see specific shots from.
No, I knew that. I never really considered it in terms of Asuka because I was viewed as very much Shinji. But
no. Yep.
I kind of want to go back and look through.
Yep. No,
interesting.
So you know how Ray's going down to Gendo?
Yeah.
So her monologues in episode 25 are while she's walking.
Okay. Yeah. And 25 Asuka is between the mass production.
It's kind of through that. You got some stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they're kind of laid on top of each other.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So Asuka, in reaching out to Shinji there is kind of... She effectively ends up saying much of the same thing as Shinji, just not as strong.
Yeah.
Okay. But she's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Asuka.
What do you do for a living? I'm a contractor for OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And I keep saying this and people just don't believe me for whatever reason, but
I don't know why they don't believe you.
That's my job.
It was really annoying when we lived together. It got very loud.
Yeah. Thoughts on the CIA? They're a terrorist organization and really bad, and I'm a big Archer fan, and they consistently rip on the CIA and talk about them overthrowing democratically elected governments and manipulating the world into seeing the U.S. as being a better entity than it is and the leader of freedom in the free world, and that is completely not the case, and the U.S. is the Fire Nation.
You like Archer.
They suck a lot. Yeah, I thought Archer was kidding, and then I became an adult and looked into it a little bit and saw that that is very much the case. The CIA really fucking sucks, and if you haven't looked into that at all, you should watch Second Thought. Has a really good video on it. Look up Second Thought CIA on YouTube, and you'll see some really good stuff.
Yeah.
Thoughts on joining the military? we'll do another YouTube recommendation. My favorite YouTube channel, Renegade Cut, has a fantastic video on why you should not join the military. If you're a fan of the military or you have people close to you who are in the military and you're offended by this, then I guess don't watch it unless you're open to having your perspective changed. But yeah, I'll link it here.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add there, or did I cover it?
Don't join the military. We literally just said the U.S. is the fire nation.
The U.S. is the fire nation.
Like, the military is their means of doing all the bad
all
stuff.
the fire nation stuff.
Yeah.
Expectations for Disco Elysium. Everything I've heard about it is just like, hey man, you're gonna play this video game and you're gonna like communism more, and like that sounds pretty based.
Yeah, based.
So I mean, I want to play it. It's the number one rated video game on most like aggregate sites, which is kind of interesting, right?
That's interesting.
Because from what I understand, it's pretty much all like words. Just read.
Mm-hmm.
I played the first like 20 minutes of it, and like it seemed interesting. I just like got distracted by wanting to play Pokemon.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of based,
Obviously.
rank the Fatadors. 7.
Yep.
5.
Yep.
6.
Yep.
3 if you include Lost.
Yep.
8, 1, 4, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
Hell yeah. How to deal with getting ghosted. We already covered that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's someone you're close to and a long-term friend based on legitimate relationships with each other, that's horrible and I'm sorry for you. If it's someone that you met at the bar or on Tinder 20 minutes ago, then
Deal
move
with
on.
it. Yeah.
Move on. Would you ever read A Song of Ice and Fire? If not, probably not, but if the book's actually fucking finished at some point and we're told that they're significantly different and way better than the ending in every conceivable way,
Yeah.
especially if it's in a way that consolidates on a character. I don't know how that would work. Like, who has the most potential? Like, if we were to like reset Game of Thrones to like season 7, but
5.
everyone's better developed. Okay, 5, and everyone's better developed up to that point.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like Daenerys is the best potential. They just have to like entirely rewrite the ending.
Pretty much.
Thoughts on Battle or Hate? I mean, like, we were the main proliferators of it at one point,
Yeah.
but like we
Then
like
we
Battler
abandoned our
now.
movement.
So sometimes
People change.
people change.
So did
for the
Battler.
better.
As did Battler.
Now that we're halfway through the season, who do you predict will eventually succeed Logan? I think Roman ends up CEO just because it would be silly, but like Kendall is obviously like the logical pick. I just think that the best ending for the show is for him to gain it and choose not to take it. So Kendrick Lamar and Joann Newsom, who was better? Well, I'm releasing a best artists in all mediums list at the end of the month, so check that out.
Yeah.
When making your film list, were there any honorable mentions or directors you could see making it in the future? I think that in terms of the amount of movies he's made, Damien Chazelle is excellent. I wish that Whiplash was a little different. I think that with some fairly minor changes, it could be a really great movie. I think it is profoundly overrated at the moment, despite being one of the more entertaining movies I've seen. But La La Land's exceptional. I'm pretty confident that I'll think Babylon is really damn good. So I could definitely see that. I don't remember the name of the director who made After Sun. I want to say it's Charlotte Wells, but I might just be pulling that out of my ass. After Sun feels like a phenomenal first attempt in a filmmaker's catalog or in an artist's catalog in general in terms of establishing what they want to do as an artist. It feels to me like the first, like a Twin Peaks first episode, like effectively a movie that begins a show that's going to be absolutely sensational. I don't really understand saying that it is the best movie or one of the best movies ever. I just can't see it, but it lends great credibility towards the beauty in the future from this artist.
It is indeed Charlotte Wells.
I'm right.
Yep.
Nice. Shinji Ikari. We
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Let's see. countries that make the best art besides Japan. So I have a bit of a conflict with this question in that I think that a lot of the reason why I do not have much exposure and understanding of a lot of art from the global south is based on political and socioeconomic factors that I don't care for. I'm sure that there is a lot of phenomenal art from the global south that I'm just simply not exposed to, but because of the horrible capitalist society that I live in, I'm not aware of a lot of it. So I'll answer the question based on what I'm exposed to, given that caveat. Japan is by far and away the best country at making art. It's not even close. I'm from America, I'm from the US. There's no competition. Japan slams the US. It's an absolute blowout. It's LeBron James versus a college basketball player. But next up would be the US, Russia, Italy, and France, from my estimation. But that's just heavily founded in what I've been exposed to, and maybe not the best estimation because I haven't done.
There's some good British music.
I was about to say England is a good shout, and maybe I should have picked England.
Okay.
But yeah. But even England is going to be disproportionately marketed towards us just in us speaking the language.
Yeah.